All right, dear. It'll all end in tears. This is what many people sort of look at, and to be fair, for me and my gig, I'm very much one where, I don't like outstaying a welcome. If someone's unhappy, if someone feels that, hey, look, you're not doing what you said you were or stuff like that,
Yeah.
you'd be big enough and you're grown up enough to get on with it. The last thing I personally want to do in my gig is to tie someone down into something, because I personally don't think it's necessary. But that's me and my world. What happens in the AdWords world? Obviously, if someone wants you to be doing things every day, all the time, you need to make sure you're protected. But by and large, what goes on with contracting, contract period? What does an ad manager need to be able to say in order to sort of answer that question about what contract period is there and why?
Yep, there are contracts out there. There are managers and agencies who feel more comfortable having that type of situation, and maybe even the client does, I don't know. In my experience, it tends to be very expected. The bigger the kind of clients you work with, so corporate clients that I've worked for in the past, they have notice periods and contract periods and stuff like that, and it might be typically, a 3-month notice period or something like that. But maybe a management or agency will ask you to sign or commit to a 3-month or a 6-month or a 12-month period or something like that. Well, if you're happy with, and sometimes clients are not happy with that, I personally have never asked for a contract. I've never asked for people to commit to, a 3-month or 6-month or 12-month period of time. Now, for some managers or agencies, it might make absolute sense for them in terms of their business practices and so forth to go down this route, because maybe they've got an annual contract commitment to a service supplier themselves. Maybe their ad management platform is a Kenshu or a Marin or a WordStream, or there's a whole bunch of these management platforms out there that agencies could be using, and they come in an annual contract. So maybe they've got to pass that on to their clients to be sure that they will get that money back from them, to support them in paying their fees to their platform provider.
Now, there's, and rightly so. We're not going to be able to go unbelievably deep in this because, of course, everybody's situation is different. But when you have different agreements in place, I'm guessing that's when maybe. So for example, your case, you're sort of widely known for the right kind of client to work on a sort of, performance-related basis. So, is how does that sort of get agreed and put down? Is that a signed sort of agreement, or is that a contract where someone says, okay, if I sell this amount of time, this is what I get? So how does that work with you?
So for me, it's really all about the results thing, as you know, and e-commerce makes that more straightforward because we can see the money out and the money in, and we are then working on a commonly agreed level of profitability. So that, I could go out and spend more of the client's money, but by doing so, am I getting them more results? Am I getting them more sales revenue? Am I getting them the return on ad spend that they need? So we have to, and this is the part of the purpose of the audit, and part of the purpose of any consulting that may need to happen to get these things in place, because not every e-commerce client has got their conversion tracking properly in place so that they can see their sales revenues. It might not be in place at all. It might not be tracking, or it might not be tracking revenue values at all, or it might be multiple counting revenue values, which means that the numbers are all messed up, and he thinks that he's got a certain thing going on when it actually isn't. And the audit is the starting point for me to look at that and make sure that, if we do need to do the consulting, to get that fixed first, because I can't take management on from a new client if they don't have all these numbers at hand. They need to know where they are now and if that is an accurate representation of reality.
But totally hear you. I totally get it. But let's say then you've gone through that process. Let's say you've either done it by looking and saying, yeah, no, look, you all these look good, or you've actually had to go in and sort of put a few things in place so you can accurately track it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Then all of a sudden you get to work. You get to
Yes.
managing clicks for them and so on,
Yes.
and then they benefit from it. So let's just
Yes.
say it gets to the stage where you look a few weeks later or a few months later and you say, oh, wow, you have now made this amount.
Mm-hmm.
Was there an agreement in place for them to say, right, on the back of this, you get your commission as such? Is that just a verbal thing, or do you get that written down?
It's not just verbal. Most of my communication is by email. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of written down in terms of there's an audit trail of what we have back and forth by way of agreeing this. Now, for me, the kind of client that I like working with has a certain size and shape and profile. Mm-hmm. And if a client is only selling, one item a day at $10 a day, then there's not very much money in it for him, and there's even less in it for me.
Yeah.
And all of us have got to go and work for people who we're a good fit for, who will both get, satisfactory value out of. Mm. So I have a minimum profile for a client because I like to earn a minimum amount per month per client, as we all should, because we all have to have a monetary value for our time.
Yes.
We have to be rewarded for our time. Our time as managers is what we give in exchange for the client's income as a direct result of what we do with our time for that client. Mm-hmm. So I like to work with certain sizes and shapes of clients. I don't have a contract, and I negotiate an acceptable percentage of their revenue that they will pay me in exchange for my services. So we talked before about, fixed monthly fees. They are usually in advance up front. Mm-hmm. And whenever I've in the past used a fixed monthly fee, it's in advance up front. If I have a support relationship with the client, it's in advance up front on a month-by-month basis. I don't tie people to a contract. If they don't like what I'm doing, they can leave whenever they like. And it's the same with e-commerce clients who I'm on the commission plan with. It's not contract based. If you don't like it, you can leave at the end of the month. Mm-hmm. No hard feelings,
Yeah, and for us to both say and make it very clear here, this particular episode here, we're not giving legal advice. We're not qualified to giving legal advice. We are just discussing one of the many questions that goes into that process of hiring an AdWords manager.
What should you pay him?
Absolutely, and for how long a period is a yeah.
What is the question is, what is a mutually acceptable exchange of values?
You've just hit the nail on the head, though. Mutually acceptable, and I think this is where manager and client alike need to sit down and just say, hey, we both want this to work.
Yeah, because it's in both our interests to do so. It's the job interview scenario all over again, which is, do I as a manager want to work for you? Because I'm becoming your outsourced campaign management fulfillment person. I'm your campaign manager. I'm not contractually employed by you as a member of your organization. You don't pay my salary, you don't pay my national insurance, you don't pay my sick pay, you don't pay any other thing like that. You simply reward me for the value I provide you in managing, growing, scaling, optimizing your AdWords campaigns. And on the screen in front of you, you see your AdWords spend of £1,500 this month, and you see your income of say £22,000 this month, and therefore you see the one divided by the other as a return on ad spend of 8.9, which is or thereabouts, between 8 and 9, and therefore that a pound in or a dollar in gets you 8 or 9 back. So that's absolutely mutually acceptable. And the volume and quantity and value of the sales that you generate, the revenue, is something that we agree at the outset has a percentage of commission attached to it. And that's going to be differently acceptable for different people. And this is a negotiable situation. So I have it that with my commission, I like to charge somewhere in the region of 3 to 5% of monthly sales revenue as recorded in gross AdWords sales revenue. Okay, and for some people 5% is fine. For some people 5% is a little on the high side, and 3% might be perfectly fine for them, perfectly fine for me. We just have to figure it out. So purpose of the audit is to look at the situation, figure out if we need to do a consult to get the numbers all plugged in and working so that we can see what's going on. And then my mission, if you hire me, is once we've agreed the acceptable commission rate, is my mission is to save you as much money as possible in waste and to earn you as much money as possible in profitable clicks.
Mm-hmm. So I suppose just to sort of summarize this as well, as most of these things, we're certainly not coming across with all the answers. We're giving you what DR users out there, and the other great thing that you put here in the book was sort of what contract period is there and why. Why? Why do you want it for 90 days? Why do you want it for 18 months? Why do you want it for a year? Because I think if you're a manager, if you've got a reluctant client who basically is either running out of cash, doesn't want to apply something, just like what you like to say, DR, maybe it's just a broken system to start with, that needs fixing, then why on earth would you just sort of have that piece of paper and say, well, look, you signed here that we would carry on when there are other things that you could be doing for them.
Yeah, quite so. So these contractual periods, I mean, like I say, some managers and agencies like it that way, and there's reasons, and they've got their commitments to fulfill and stuff like that. And I don't work like that. I never have. Even when I was charging up front, a monthly fee, I'm like, well, if you don't like me at the end of the month with what I've done, then fine, we'll part ways. And I can't guarantee that this stuff is going to work for you and get you what you think you can get out of it, which is why I have a very, very careful and systematic process of working with prospective clients these days only in e-commerce for management. I'll consult and support with anybody in any situation for AdWords. That's the purpose of the private group. If you're in lead gen or whatever area you're in and you've got problems and questions and you need help, then that's the place. The private group is where you can get it, and that's the purpose of it. The management service that I offer is only for e-commerce clients unless there are exceptional circumstances. There are sometimes exceptional circumstances, and that's why I need you to ask the question, because the hard and fast rules that I set of no management for lead gen type situations. Well, you might have a very, very interesting situation in maybe you're a franchise organization and you're looking for situation to scale up your franchise reach and things like that. Well, that could be an entirely different consideration. So ask the question, let's talk about it. But usually management is for carefully selected e-commerce clients only of a certain size and shape, where I know, based on what I see in your account, we have got something to offer one another that we will both like. And therefore, if we like that and it keeps on doing as we want it to, then there's no purpose of the contract anyway, because you'll just keep on, I'll keep on working at it to improve it for you, and you'll keep on liking it and keep on paying me the commission. I've had clients for years, year after year after year, and, we're all absolutely happy with what's going on.
So the sort of the advice out to you out there is that not necessarily a right or a wrong answer. There's your answer, but you've got to have a bit of substance behind why you might want a contract and for how long. And likewise, I think for clients looking to sit down, think very carefully about how long you're willing to tie yourself in. But as always, just having some sort of proper sit down, like you said, the exchanging of value to one another and being very frank and upfront about it, I think would really help.
Transparency is what it's all about. This is supposed to be a strategic business partnership where we're all in it for the same thing, which is everybody wins, which is the client wins because they get to sell more stuff and earn more profit. The buyers of their product win because they get what they want in exchange for their money. It's all about money is a relative thing. Money is a relative value. I will pay money in exchange for something if I think I get more money back in value. And there's such a range of of the scale of this thing that $10 for me is a lot for a certain situation. $100 for somebody else for the same situation is a steal.
Yes.
My value is elastic. My value varies. I do the same stuff, but to different organizations of different sizes, shapes, resources, and so forth, they will get more money back than they put in. They could give me 100 or 1,000 or 10,000. I'll do my work. They'll get back more than that. And the way I do this stuff is it's completely transparent. You log into your AdWords account, you see your return on ad spend. It's there in front of you. It can't be argued with, and that is the value. And if it means that you spent 1,000 yesterday and got 10,000 back, great. It means if you spent 10,000 yesterday and got 100,000 back, then that's how it goes.
Yeah.
I can look at one account in my thing here. I'll just give you. I won't go, giving any private client information away. But here's the thing: people spend different amounts of money for different reasons in their AdWords accounts. And I can look at one guy who'll spend 1,000 yesterday, and I can look at another guy who would have spent a few hundred yesterday, and this particular account that's just loading up now, they spend a lot, and they're actually in lead gen, and I support them in this, and they spend a lot because they know they get an awful lot back. So their last 30 days spend was $103,000.
Wow.
Yesterday, and they're happy with this because they know they've got more money coming back. Yesterday they spent over $4,000. They got nearly 3,000 converted clicks out of that.
And of course they've probably got their follow-up system nailed, and they know the lifetime customer of a
absolutely
value.
So it's knowing this situation. It's knowing the value of what you get out of what it costs you.
Excellent. Wow, that's great. And while we're on sort of that, we're going to sort of once again just mention that if you have more questions, there is the private group there. We hope you're getting a lot out of this program alone, just from the standpoint of knowing what to ask and understanding. And as always, the fact that we can get some real-time case studies from someone who's out there in the trenches doing it all the time is great. So, DR, thanks very much for that. Really appreciate that. And in our next one, we're going to focus on references and case studies, what can be provided and what to ask as you go along from a client in order to sort of be able to demonstrate that you can indeed do what you say you can.
Yes,
so
absolutely.
Thanks for that, dear.
You're welcome. Thanks, man.